It is the morning of day 3 that we've been working on this project. Our first day we dug out a lot of materials. We went and got some materials and we kind of figured out the general theme of our firewood enclosure cover. Second day we got our deck and our posts installed. We've got a little bit more to finish up on the deck, and then we will work on the roof system. Hopefully we can get as much done as we possibly can today and get the roof pretty well wrapped up. We'll see. Tomorrow is Labor Day and we have to drive home and get back to the real world tomorrow. So today's pretty much our last day this trip that we can work on this. So we'll finish up the deck real quick. We'll put some horizontal pieces on the front and the back posts to help support our rafters. We'll cut our rafters, get those up there, box it out with some fascia basically, put plywood on it. We're not going to put any vapor barrier on it because I don't think with it being open to the bottom and sheet metal on top we need it. Some people might say we would, but I just don't see a need for it with moisture being accessible to the bottom. It's not like an enclosed structure. We'll have like a delta rib style panel with drip edge around the edge, and then we'll put a C-channel, or J-trim, sorry, a J-trap on the sides and the top. That'll just keep snow and things like that from possibly accumulating underneath the metal roofing, and then nothing on the bottom so it can just slide off. We will put some foam closure strip on the bottom so wasps and fun little creatures like that don't get in those little high ribs and build nests. So we'll get after it.
For a breath.
Put our high-tech spacer blocks.
Am I feeding it in and you're feeding it out?
What would you prefer to do, comfort-wise?
I will face my fears. I hate these things so much.
Okay. when on a longboard like this, once it gets out to here,
Just let go.
I can pull it
Yeah.
through the rest of the way. Then we'll go ahead and feed this one, and then the next one.
Same thing.
What's that?
Same thing.
Yep. Ready?
More, an eighth
See
of
the
an
tape
inch
measure?
more. Huh?
Go ahead and measure from this edge here that we want to save
Yeah.
to this edge here.
Okay. 4 3/4.
Okay?
So that's why. Set at 5 and
So
a
let's
16th.
go ahead and see. So it's reading from this direction out.
Oh yeah.
So this is 4.
Oh, I see.
So that would be 4.5, and
Yeah,
I don't
got
trust
it.
this thing. It's pretty close.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah. I think that will be just fine. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Let it go.
So what we could do is, so that we can get a more consistent dimension
Flip
off
that
of this side, would be flip these 180 degrees so our 1.5 is here.
Yeah. Check it.
And on this, sometimes you're checking to the edge of the tooth right there,
Yeah,
because
so
that's
that
the
looks
edge of the
good.
cut. And then also probably check on this side, since again this is a probably over here. We're giving us,
It's too far in.
okay?
Give it a 16th. There we go.
Okay, double check up here.
Still good.
Okay. And contact. Since that's the nicer of the pieces, do we want to put it here?
Sure. We need to trim those off a little.
What's that? It's running wild. I would rather use as much of this one as we can, and then just trim the end
Well,
of that
this one has cracks and a
Okay, we
piece
can
missing there,
clean that
so-
off.
Okay.
So go
So-
ahead and run that as long as you can.
Okay.
Other drill. I took the battery out of that one.
Oh. I was thinking, man, this is light.
It's the new one. You didn't know I bought that yet. It'd be all like, when did you get this?
Oh,
while
I've had
ago.
it for a while.
And then I'll cut it.
Okay, go for it.
Tape measure, please. So 62.5 plus 1 3/4 would be 64 1/4. Pretty straight.
Flush with this.
Flush with top, flush with outside. Yep.
You want me to put one screw in?
Sure. Do you like it where it is right now?
Yeah.
You need some screw?
I got some.
Oh, nice.
It's nice and plumb on my end. It could go.
I need to go down just a smidge.
It could go toward you a little and be okay. Better.
Okay, so that looks pretty close to level. I'm just clamping the block that it's sitting on.
Yeah.
So if it needs to pull this way,
A little.
we can. Super light.
Here, I have one. Oh, you're gonna use.
This doesn't have much juice left, but
Ah, better.
good.
Yeah. Wow, nice. Okay.
Thank you.
You want this clamp or you good?
I can hold it for a second.
Okay.
Go ahead and put one in the top
Yep.
because that should be pretty good. Close. I'll lift this lower it down actually a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty dang close.
It can be twisted.
Yeah.
It's not flush at the top, but
Well, I think as long as we're trying to get it good at this point, the next level and the next level,
Okay.
they'll be pretty good.
let me undo.
What's that?
Let me do a different one.
Yeah,
I don't
put a
like
different
it.
screw in a different location.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't try and snake into the same
Yeah.
spot again. Put it in forward.
There we go. Much better.
By starting in reverse, it gives you a nice like pilot hole.
Yes, I
for
was
the
trying to do
screw
that.
to start into.
A tiny bit higher.
Well, so that's a foot off the top. But you want it a little steeper, you think?
Just a tiny bit. That wasn't a tiny bit.
Sorry.
But yeah, that right there.
You
That'll
like
work.
that kind of look?
I'd actually kind of like it even steeper, but that's just me.
Well, getting up there and doing stuff
Yeah, I know.
is going to be a bit of a challenge.
Nice. That I like.
Do you want that?
That face makes me want to say yes, but then reap the repercussions of it.
Well, I mean,
I like it there. Yes.
you like it there?
I like it there.
Let's see what we can do. Okay. So that's probably taking like 8 inches off
Okay.
versus a foot. It's like 7 7/8 inches.
Okay.
So you're thinking that would be a good spot? Okay.
So now just we'll rip our.
So like I was saying, whoops.
That does not look like this, the pitch we had. Okay.
I scribed it,
Okay.
and since I didn't scribe it the entire way, I just lined it up.
Yeah.
I will put it back up there.
Okay, just to make double sure.
So now that we've got our rafters clamped into an angle that we think is aesthetically pleasing and good, we're not going to do a lot of math on this. We could say, okay, that's where we need this front ledger, and we could just draw our line there and say that's good. But if we look, we've got a huge gap where this rafter isn't bearing fully on what will be the ledger. So I'm going to take a chunk of 2x material, it can be anything, and I'm going to line it up so that the top corner of this side and the bottom of the rafter are in line, and that will give me basically the bird's mouth right here and the ledger height here. So I'll install all my ledgers level across this line, and then we'll know that that's where our bird's mouth, or how big of a bird's mouth we need. So it's simple, it's easy, we're not calculating things, we're not using rafters, squares, and all that kind of stuff. It's just put stuff in place and go. All right, our two posts here, these 4x4s, are actually leaning away from each other, so we want to bring them into plumb before we start screening boards. So we're just going to use a ratchet strap. Don't be afraid of these things. A lot of people, I think, don't realize that you can use these to rack walls, plumb things up. So in this case, since both of them are leaning away from each other, I'm just going to ratchet both of them together.
Almost there. Stop. One more. I think that'll work.
Okay. Guess we'll probably just have to muscle it into place. We messed up when we did our initial back ledger. We wanted to have these overhang 12 inches, which will support our last 2x4 rafter. So if you look at the front here, we've got the 1 foot overhang. But before we move on to our rafters, I'm recutting some of these 2x6s to include the 12-inch overhang. So we'll change these two pieces out on either end real quick, and then we'll get on to our roof system.
Fortunately, we still had enough 2x6.
Yes, out of our free undershop stash that we discovered.
So this is what we ended up having to do. An hour later, we almost have everything plumb with all our offcuts. I don't feel cheerful.
Well, you better sound cheerful, because that's what people want to see. They don't want to see humglum, doom and gloom, girl. want to see Dan and Sarah Makers. What's up, everybody?
Well, then when they actually see us in person, they'll be terribly disappointed.
Like every celebrity, you find out they have horrible BO.
So, after an hour of working on this, we finally have it almost sort of kind of plumb and square and level. Kind of sort of. So now we are going to cut our first rafter. Did we ever explain why we're overhanging on that side so much?
I don't think so. Would you like to explain it?
Sure, so the point of having a really big overhang on this side is because if it's miserable weather and you're trying to load wood, you don't want a whole bunch of water and snow and slush and stuff dropping on top of you. So we want the overhang to be far enough so that there's less of that.
Yeah.
While you're loading wood.
And snow will drop off the backside.
Right, so that's why the pitch is this way, because this is the open side. Somebody somewhere is going to think that's a dumb idea, but that's okay. This is east. That behind Dan is north. So we're taking care of the nor'easter weather by having the west side open.
Correct. We're lucky we actually have a couple pieces of nice rough sawn cedar, which will be our fascia or outermost rafters, which is why it's super light.
No, you're just that strong.
No, I'm not that strong. Rolling with limited tools, so. Sitting on top of the rim joist like that, and I just took my square and I transferred lines on either side and plumbed it up so I knew the extent of my bird's mouth. I want to take the minimal amount and have full bearing here and the minimal here, so I made sure that this line was a full depth one, and trying to get a square cut here with a speed square is kind of a challenge to get that square. So I just used a chunk of 2x4 that had a square edge on it, and I lined it up with this line here and this point here, and then just drew across there. So that's easier to get a square than having to deal with a speed square with that angle on it.
Alright, so you've marked both birds' mouths for both sides of the fire shed, both walls.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna notch it and put it back up there and see what it looks like. Go for it. Nobody's stopping you.
And I don't have a handsaw with me, so this will be...
So you gotta try and use your...
yeah. I don't know, we'll probably have to use a Sawzall.
That'll be funny.
So there's one of 28 that we need to do. So for marking out these birds' mouths, I've got my template, and I just go through, we've got all our 2x4 stacked and cut to the correct length. I just match up the end and then the top bottom, and then just mark my line. Because I'm marking at the inside of the template, when you cut these, be sure to take your entire line. Don't cut to the line, take the line. That way your bird's mouths on all your rafters aren't slightly smaller than your template.
So we've got all but just like the last 4 truss.
I think 3.
3?
3 rafters?
3 rafters to go. And we had one really bowed 2x4. So we're ripping down our last tongue and groove
2x6.
2x6 to
make a 2x4 so we don't have to run back to the lumber yard and get one 2x4.
We also ran out of Simpson L brackets, so we're going to use what, B 2.
L 2.5.
L 2.5s.
Yep, we found a couple of them left over from the previous owner in the shop, fortunately.
So we're not going to have to spend 2 hours going to the store again.
Yeah.
So that'll be good.
Yep. We've got all our rafters on. Now we're going through, or I'm going through, and I'm drilling a pilot hole down through the top of the rafter, the center of it, and I am driving one of our screws down through the top and into the top of this board. It just gives us a little bit more rigidity and security besides the little Simpson bracket with the shorter screws on it. So
I don't know that we ever showed them the Simpson brackets.
Okay.
But basically it's just an L bracket and then we ran out.
Yeah.
So then we found some other ones.
Yeah, so we've got the little L brackets on the majority of these. They're all installed from the other direction. So you can kind of see a little bit of them there. And so we've got those installed, and then the last like 3 trusses we used L 2.5 brackets. Like we said, we managed to find some of those. So we're just backing it up with some screws through the top. We will cut our 4x4s off so that they're flush or just slightly below the top of our rafters. And then we'll put on some fascia on both sides. We happen to have some rough sawn 2x4, so we'll use that as a fascia on both ends. And then it's plywood, edge metal, and steel sheeting.
Fascia.
We're not doing anything fancy where we're mitering the ends of these at a 45 and lap jointing them together. We're just going to go straight in, butt them end to end. Because this is rustic. Tell me, when do you think it's good?
You're lapping, we're gonna lap it or flush it out with the cedar rafter tail. Okay, that's probably good then.
End and top will be flush.
Yep, go for it.
And let me just double check length real quick.
Okay.
Feels beautiful. Okay.
Alright, so there's a big gap, and also this one's a 1/4 inch smaller.
Yeah, I mentioned that they weren't the same width.
Okay.
So this board has quite a bow in it. So we'll probably get the first couple. And once we get that, we'll start pushing up, and that'll help keep a gap from opening at the bottom again.
Okay, go ahead and pull it down. A little more. Okay.
That's not going to work very well. Okay, go for it though.
Okay.
We're just going to twist and or split out that.
Yeah, it's just going to have a big gap.
I think this one's good, but we'll want a free drill. Are we recording? Can you see us?
Okay, can you push it down a tad?
More?
Yeah. That'll probably do.
That'll do, donkey.
That'll do, pig.
Oh, that'll do, pig.
Okay. And I am out of... Thank you.
That's what that guy did that popped a hole in his battery and caused this fire.
Caused the fire. Okay. Up a little. Oh, wow. Is that one attached?
No. It's just really...
Okay, push down a little. There. Just a tiny little tap.
Up
Up.
on the joist?
Yeah. There.
We are finally moving on to sheeting the roof with 1/2-inch plywood. I've got some used plywood. It's weathered on one side, a little nicer on the other. We're going to put the nicer side down so you can see it. What we're going to do is Sarah and I, we're both going to grab the plywood in the middle and we're going to set it upright so it's the 8-foot tall, 4-foot wide, leaning against our fascia here. Then easily enough we can lift it, slide it up to the top. Our roof is 8 foot long, so it's one sheet. And then either I or Sarah will hold it or clamp it into place down here so that the bottom's even with the fascia. I'll put a couple nails in the bottom so it's nice and nailed off and secure to the straight fascia. And then hopefully the roof is square and we're not parallelogrammed. But if it's not, I can go on that ladder there and I can use the edge of the plywood and push on the fascia or pull, and basically I have like an 8-foot lever that I can use to rack the roof square. Hopefully. That would be the easiest way. If not, we could use some ratchet straps. I even have some turnbuckles for form aligning, concrete formwork. That would really put the hurt on this if we need it. The biggest reason to get this as square as we possibly can is we're using that delta rib roofing, and we're going to have the tail of the roofing down here, and that stuff is very unforgiving when it comes to things out of square. So if it's out of square, we're going to see the panels stair step all the way down, and that looks really trashy. So we're trying our best to get this as square and as good from the get-go. So, ready? Let's do this. But you've never nailed anything in your life.
Well, I've never nailed anything in my life, but...
The first company I ever worked for, the boss did not believe in framing nail guns. We had a plethora of finished nail guns, brad nailers, staplers, roofing nailers, everything. No framing nailers. So when we put additions on offices and houses and things like that, we hand nailed everything. All the sheeting, all the framing. Drove me crazy.
Looks like you're out of practice, man.
Yeah. Well, it's been 20-something years for this young guy that hasn't got any experience since I did that. The roof sheeting is nailed off. We did approximately a 6 and 12 nailing pattern, 8-penny nails, hand-driven. Put a couple chicken boards up there just to hang on to while we were doing it. It's a small roof, so there's not a lot of room to right yourself if you start going over. We're going to put on an 1.5 inch drip edge, just a basic drip edge all the way around. We'll do the bottom. I'll do very basic returns because I have a large number of sheet metal tools. In other words, this one pair of snips. I'll do small returns up the sides. We'll do the sides next and then the top. That way everything's lapped properly for water. Not a big deal because this isn't going to be a watertight scenario. We're going to use J-trim on the sides and the top. And like I said, the panels will slide up into that area. And that'll just keep water or snow from getting in between the panels and the roofing in the future. We won't use the J-trim at the bottom so snow can slide off cleanly to the bottom. And then we'll just slide the panels in. Like I said, we've got some gasket that will enclose the ends on the bottom. That way wasps and bugs don't get in there. So, yeah. I'll nail the drip edge on with nails and then we'll screw the J-trim on with screws, a panhead screw. You don't want to drive your nails too deep with sheet metal or screws because you can do what's called oil canning it, and basically you create a buckle in the sheet metal, and you'll see it at the edges, in the middle, and things like that. So just snug them up. These are 10-foot long pieces, 18-foot long buildings, so we've got about 2 foot of waste. I'm going to do about a 4-inch lap, and then I've given myself that approximate 1.5 inches or so for the tab that I'm going to bend up. Since I only have lefts right now, it's hard to go around that corner, so by cutting that relief tab, it gives my lower jaw somewhere to turn. So that's why I double cut like that. If I try and do this, it's a mess. So by cutting that little tab, it makes it a whole lot easier to get around the corner. Again,
I didn't see it the first time.
oh, I'm just cutting on the inside corner there. If I had right snips or left rights, multi-purpose, it'd be a little bit easier. And you're constantly changing back and forth depending on which side you're going to. So
it was out of focus, but that's okay.
Because of this little break here at the drip edge, if I can get my pliers on that point there, that helps it bend a little bit more cleanly right at that line. So I'll set this corner tight, overlapping the previous piece, and then I'll nail my way back to the center. For the side drip edge, anytime you're going to have an exposed corner or edge of metal, you always want to try and use the factory end. A raw cut field end isn't preferable, so if you can at all avoid it, try and use a factory edge where it's going to be exposed. So for this here, I don't necessarily need to measure and cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my top edge long. And I'm going to bring that factory edge or end down to my corner just like that, and then I can go and I can cut that top corner in place.
Okay, tell me what you're doing.
Alright, so I'm going to cut this edge, drip edge, about 1.5 inches past the top of the roof, and then I'm going to do a little relief cut in the top edge and then just fold the side over. That way when I do the top, it's lapped over the top. So, I'm going to cut it. There's that edge, done. And there's that little relief cut out of the corner. And since this one's in place, I'll just bend it by hand. Got a little bit of a warble. Use a hammer to flatten it out. Does that look for flush at the bottom?
Looks good.
Got it?
Yep.